Okay, hey y'all, this is Haley, my husband Josh, and we're doing Haley Ann book part 4, where he asks questions, and apparently I also have questions to ask him.
Yeah.
So,
as you know, the last 3 parts to this series was me asking her questions about what it was like, life was like before, and during, and immediately after her assault. So, and then we asked you all for questions, and this is the questions we got. And you know what? If you've not sent us a question, go ahead and continue to send questions, because we could do more of these videos. So, which there will be more videos, because there's some other topics that we will need to address about her life during the time of the assault and the book. So, all right. So let's see here. First question that we'll do is, what made you decide to share your story?
I kind of just thought that it could be helpful for like other people, because I mean, I personally haven't heard anybody talk about stuff, so it's like, well, maybe if I share, maybe other people will share, and like lo and behold, that's actually been the case for me. Like I've had a lot of people like share Me Too with me, and so it's just kind of starting that conversation within like just my small group of people, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. A question for me says, what did you have to learn or change in order to love Haley well in your marriage in light of the assault? I don't know that I really had to change anything. I had to be more aware of, early on, some of your triggers. And how to help you get through those moments where there was a trigger. Like I was watching a documentary about Jeffrey Epstein, and that was early on, and I was like, is this bothering you? And you're like, no, and then it actually did bother you. So I had, just being more aware of the situation, I guess you would say, and what to do. And I can't think of anything. Maybe you have noticed something that I've done that's helped.
I mean, you've just loved me. Like, you didn't view this as like, oh, well, I can't look at you without seeing this in your past. You know what I mean? Like, you just loved me for me, even though I do have a past and whatnot.
Yeah. And I think going into any relationship with the whole thought process of this person does have a past, whether it be a long past or a short past, there is going to be stuff in the closet that needs to be brought to light early on, and that's what we did. We started out with hard questions, because in case you didn't know, we started talking right when COVID hit, so all we did was video chat 2 hours, at minimum of 2 hours a day for 3 weeks before we actually got to talk and meet in person. Yeah. And so, but we'll have to get into those stories later. So, let's see here. Did this whole event draw you closer to God or farther away?
I'd say at first it definitely drew me further away, because like I was already struggling with my religion at the time, so this didn't help, and I kind of had that thought process that a lot of people have. Well, how could a loving God allow something like this to happen? Like I didn't get it, and of course I was not well versed in scripture either, so like I didn't, know the story of Joseph and like, what he had gone through, and like how God like brought that for his glory and whatnot. So I didn't really understand that at the time, but luckily I had a friend who I was really close to that summer, the summer after the event, and she just kind of got me in church and then got me in Regen, and that's kind of where I started like getting at least an idea of who God really is, because like I grew up and like had no clue who God really was. I just thought that he was there to judge us for our sins, and that was about it. And we had to work to please him. And it's like, no, that's not part of it either. So yeah, at the beginning, it definitely, like, I was so, like, I jumped straight into New Age. Like, I was so anti-religion, but because, like, I grew up in church, it was kind of like when she presented Regen to me, I told her, I was like, this is technically my last hope. Like, if this doesn't work, I'm done. I've had enough. So yeah, definitely brought me closer there at the end.
Do you have any suggestions for red flags an employee might want to pay attention to with their boss or business owner that they should watch out for?
Definitely do a lot of research on what grooming is, because that's exactly, I mean, that is class A, like exactly what you're looking for. I didn't know what grooming was until afterwards. I think it's definitely a fine line, because a boss could be really nice to you and it be genuine and they be just really nice to you. But I feel like there's also, just in this day and age, there should be boundaries set in place for workplace interactions, I believe. Like, I mean, that's just me going through what I've experienced. Like, I definitely will probably, like, if I had an older male boss, I probably would not be going out with drinks for him again, like with another person again, per se. But just look out for, like, what grooming is. Being overly nice, certain verbiage that is used to discuss you as a person, like, I was the special one, I got special privileges, and I literally I get, and like the reason why that was so triggering for me, and like why I didn't see that as a problem, was because I was somebody that was like looking for affirmation. I was somebody that was like looking for somebody to tell me that I was good, and that, like, you know, that I was doing what I needed to be doing, and like he was telling me all the things that I wanted to hear. And yeah, and I was so, that's another thing, don't get so blindsided with the fact that you love your job that you can't, you know, that you get so blinded that you can't see that you're in a dangerous situation, because that's how I was with this job. And that was actually one of the few jobs that I've absolutely loved. And yeah, that blindsided me to the fact that this was a really bad situation. And also, I mean, it's not a bad thing to go to other coworkers and be like, so the boss, how do you feel about him? Like, let's go to lunch, let's talk. Like, I mean, or like a coworker, if it's a coworker that's, you know, giving you red flags, whatever the case may be, you know, kind of, I mean, some of the people that's been in the office, I'm sure, has known that person for quite a while and probably has an idea of that person's behaviors, previous behaviors, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, it's definitely good to, like, don't isolate yourself and make yourself feel like you're alone. Reach out to others.
Another question for you is, what is the most surprising change in who you are that has happened since the assault and healing from it?
I think the fact that, like, I could go back to the way I was prior to the assault, because I think anytime anything traumatic happens to you, that innocence is just gone. And like, while yes, I am more careful about stuff that I do and like situations that I put myself in, I'm definitely more apt now to just kind of not openly trust people, but like enough to where, like, because like prior to this, like, I didn't trust anybody at all. Like, I had like, you know, 200-foot walls built all around me, and like I was trusting nobody. I didn't want to reach out to anybody. I was isolating. Whereas now I reach out to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of different people. I honestly never thought I'd be able to like talk about it. I still personally, I don't think I've ever told you this, I still can't listen to the recordings. I think I did that recently. I was like, all right, we're done, 5 seconds in. That was fun what lasted.
I remember you trying that, and that was not a good day after.
No. So there's like, I mean, for me, I feel like it's kind of frustrating at times, because like you feel like, oh, well, I've come so far, and I've grown so much, and then it's like one thing, like I struggle with PTSD from the event, so like something could happen and it just trigger my PTSD, and I'm like right back in that moment. And it's like, what the heck? It's like I took like 100 steps forward, but then 1,000 steps back. But it's just a continual process, and it's taken a lot of time to get here. And people told me that it would take a lot of time to move on, and it has. And it's taken a lot of just the right people that God's placed in my life that have just helped and encouraged me to just continue to grow and just to be myself.
Yeah, when we did your book party, people said
that it was like the old me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in our marriage, like I'm starting to see a different side of you. Mm-hmm. And so being more carefree and not as reserved. Even our small group would say the first time that they met you, you were very quiet. And now it's like you share a lot. So
yeah.
If you met an old friend who knew you before, what do you think they would be surprised by?
That depends on what stage of life they knew me. I'd say like people that probably knew me in like elementary school and like the beginning years of middle school, they'd probably just be like, you've not changed one bit. Just because like the way I am now truly is the way that I was like in elementary school. And people that probably knew me like, 8th grade and on, and then somewhat in college, would probably just say that like I've become more open and just more blunt and upfront about the things that I talk about, and I'm not kind of scared to talk about specific topics and stuff like that, and I'm just more vulnerable than I used to be, because like I guess from moving so much, I became so reserved and whatnot. And then even, it was like, it felt like there for a while, it was like trigger after trigger after trigger, or I guess trauma after trauma after trauma for me, that it just put me into like such a shell that like I didn't reach out to people, like I didn't talk to people. So I think, just me being more vulnerable and me being more open and carefree, like you said, like that would probably be the most shocking thing I think that people find.
This one's for both. Actually, a couple of questions for both of us. Since the book has made this a current focus in your marriage, how do you use it to grow instead of focusing on and reliving the pain?
I don't know how you support me through this without like,
Well, I think like knowing how it's increased your anxiety and the little things that can get you upset, like the other day getting gas, and I was like trying to understand why do you let it make you nervous and stuff, which can be frustrating on us both, because I'm going, well, why is it like that? Why are you getting so upset? And it can seem simple to me.
Or stuff like getting gas in the first place. Like how that's stressful for me. Because like I'm paranoid about getting kidnapped now.
Yeah.
So, and like there's just a lot of stuff that I've had to like teach Josh about being a woman, because like he as a man doesn't go through the same stuff or doesn't have the same fears as I would. So like, going and getting gas for him is just not a big deal. Whereas for me, like before I even get out of my car, like I'm looking at my surroundings and making sure that it's like safe to get out. So I think it's about like educating, but like it's educating from my side, but it's understanding from his side. Like it's not like judgmental, like, oh, well, like you shouldn't be like that. Like life's not that bad. Like you're very supportive of me, like once you understand.
Yeah, because it is frustrating. It's like, because for me, like you said, I don't understand it, or it's such a simple task on some things, and it's like, what? I forget that certain things are triggers that aren't triggers in normal situations. Mm-hmm. So,
and I even heard somebody say once that like, once you've gone through a trauma, your brain is almost rewired to think differently the way most everybody else thinks because of your trauma. So like the stuff that I probably think about, there's a lot of people that's watching this, maybe if they haven't been sexually assaulted, that they probably don't think about. And that's, I mean, hey, that's not bad. Like, I hate that. Like, I'm so overly cautious about every decision I make. But, yeah. So I think it takes just a lot of love, support, understanding, and, you know, just walking hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. And for the last question, what would each of you tell a couple that has a similar event in their past that causes conflict or pain in the relationship?
That causes conflict or pain? What do you mean? Like it's like contention in the relationship?
Yeah.
I think it's going to take, and a lot of that, like if you're in a relationship where you feel like you can't trust that person to have those conversations, not being offensive, but you probably shouldn't be in that relationship because, and I'm not saying that like judgmentally, but just being in our relationship, it has taken a lot of conversations like over the past year and a half-ish that we've been married and even known each other. 2 years that we've known each other, but it's taken a lot of really hard conversations and a lot of like explaining. Like he'd be like, well, I don't understand why that's a big deal, and like in my brain it's like a really big deal because it's a trigger for me. So I mean, it's about like having those really tough conversations, and I mean it's going to hurt, especially like if you're the one that's gone through that trauma. It's going to hurt and it's going to be uncomfortable. However, you can't be in a relationship with someone without literally talking about all the things that's going on in here, because not everybody can like read your mind or like know what you're thinking or know what you've gone through even. So it takes a lot of difficult conversations. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. It is a lot of difficult conversations. From a guy's perspective, I think a lot of patience and being willing to listen and learn. And there's resources out there to help. Probably one of the best things that ever helped prepare me, and I had no clue, was years ago I listened to a message that a pastor gave on the secrets we keep, and it was on sexual assault and sexual abuse. And his wife had, growing up, had been abused. And so there was some really good pointers with that. But if it's causing conflict, I would say that there's a good chance that either one, the guy is being selfish about it somehow because he's not prepared, like he's not trying to understand the situation. Or two, or vice versa, or the one that's been assaulted isn't getting the help that they need to work through it. Because
you've got to have a lot of support.
Yeah.
And something that's nobody asked, but it just hit me. Like my family, they, and I even still have people to this day, because I struggle really bad with anxiety more so than depression, is what can we do to help you? And like, you know, from the perspective of somebody that's like, family or friend of somebody that's been sexually assaulted. I mean, seriously, like just ask that person, like, what do you need from me to like be supportive for you? And, you know, just have those conversations, because like my family did that with me when I kind of just came out and like told my family like, hey, this is what I've been through. And they were so supportive of me, and they were just very encouraging. And they asked the question like, what can we do to like help you to like, you know, get better and do what you need to do. And also just know that, you know, if you're somebody that's been sexually assaulted or raped, just know that there are resources out there for you to help you. Either if you're still in that situation, to not only get out of that situation, but to seek help. And there's even like specific, I don't know if you can go to a police station and it be there. I went to like a specific center that was related to women who had been sexually assaulted and raped. So there was like specific officers and detectives there that dealt with stuff like this before and knew how to have those conversations. And that was honestly, that was like the first time I had a conversation about it, and that was single-handedly the like worst conversation I had about it, because it was so awkward and uncomfortable because you had to talk about everything. You couldn't leave anything out.
Yeah.
And but it was also good for me to get it out at the same time. Like, it was hard, but it was like the start of like me opening up about it.
And they don't like asking those questions either.
No. It's not fun for them.
Oh,
yeah, it's not fun for anybody involved. But just know that there are resources for you. I'll leave some resources like down below in the description box of just stuff that could be like helpful for you, like different websites and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'd also say one of the things that always stood out in my mind after the message I listened to, if you are friends with someone that's been assaulted or in a relationship with someone that's been assaulted, there's things that you say and don't say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't say, well, if I would have known you then or been there, I would go take care of the person or whatever. It's, things like that. It's like, well, you weren't there, and that's not what the person needs. They need affirmation and encouragement, and that's what I try to do with Hali, because they're strong people. An assault victim and survivor is a strong person, because they have to keep going, and they can easily shut down and it'd be over. Their life be over.
But just because they are strong, don't think that they have it all together either. They still need help and love and support. Like I get told by a lot of people that know me now that didn't know me then, that just like, you're so strong. And what I hear, I mean, like, I don't take it like negatively. Like, I do like appreciate that comment, but just know that I don't have it all together, and I do still have hard days or hard moments that are just difficult to go through. But the grand scheme, like, for me, the reason what keeps me going with this was the initial statement that I made when I first set out to be like, I want to pursue justice, I want to pursue this book, I want to pursue these things, was I wanted to make at least one person feel a little less alone in the world. And in all honesty, I've like already accomplished that. With at least within my inner circle anyway. So like, that's made it all worth it, and made it like worth the time and effort and difficulty that I've had to go through to get to this point.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to share? That's all the questions we have for today, but
I know. I think that's it.
All right. So, well, again, if you have more questions, please send them to us and we'll do another video.
And just know, somebody reached out to me, and I understand this. Like, I absolutely do. Because, I mean, it's uncomfortable to ask these questions, first of all. So, like, just know that it's not... You're not going to upset or offend me with a question. I mean, even if it is potentially, like, upsetting or offensive, you're not going to upset me or offend me. It's not going to throw me back into that time and space, necessarily. In all honesty, I actually, like, these questions have been super helpful for me to, like, think about it, and how, if I had a conversation with somebody that had been sexually assaulted, like, how to better handle those situations. So, like, not only is it beneficial for me, but, like, it's super beneficial for others as well. So, like, if you've got a question, please do ask. Like, it's not gonna upset me or anything. Like, and I know it's super awkward and uncomfortable, but don't worry, I try not to make it super awkward and uncomfortable, or like any more than it already is.
Yeah. The more you can bring a dark situation to the light, the darkness gets smaller and smaller.
Yep.
So, but all right. Don't forget, if you share repost this video, be sure and put hashtag Hali and book as a shout out to us. Share it with your friends and family, and again, send questions. And if you want a book, let us know. If you want a signed copy of a book, I should say, you can get it at the local Christian bookstore in Greenville, where she works part-time, or send us a message. We'll tell you how to get us paid or whatever. And also, it's still on Amazon and Walmart and all those places right now. It just won't be a signed copy. So, and also, you're working on slowly working on your next book.
Yes.
So a little,
very slowly.
Be thinking about that. It'll be a little bit, but
it'll be a while. I haven't even like completely started it yet. So.
And what's the topic gonna be?
Kind of my life years later, because like what somebody had like commented like, oh well, there's not like a whole lot of God in your story. And I'm like, no, you're right, there's not. God was not really a part of my story at that time, necessarily. Like, he was not, like, religion was not, like, a big thing for me, or, like, a relationship with God was just not a big thing for me. So, I guess, like, it's about how I've allowed God into my life and to work in my life and, you know, to use what happened for bad, for good. And like how even like with certain situations, like things can come up, and just how God has used that to grow me as a person instead of me like just shutting down. So yeah. And one final thing, how would, gosh, I had the question, then you asked me a question. I forgot the question.
Story of our life right there.
I know. How do you support me, like knowing that this is my story and it's out there? Like what role do you take in that? Do you know what I mean? Like, cause this is my thing, and you know you're not like a big. Not that you're not like a big part of it, but you're not like up front, like center stage with me. You're kind of like behind the scenes. So like, do you like that? Do you like enjoy that? Because you know what I mean, like, because you know in some relationships it can be something where it's like like my success is overshadowing like your success. Do you know what I mean? Like, how does that affect you?
Like, I think at times the only time that I've ever thought like maybe negative about it was like where I wasn't involving myself, and encouraging and going out and saying, hey, like this video, loving taking part of that, but at the same time, the stuff you don't want to do, like invite friends on Facebook or whatever. In the past, you're like, I just want. I mean, if people find me, they find me, and I'm like, no, you've got to push your name out there and your story, and stepping up and helping you do that, and so, and even we've sent some books to people hoping that maybe that it would catch on with them and you'd get interviews, and still doing a little bit of that. So, but overall, I mean, it's been fun because, and that's a weird thing to say, but it's been neat to see you grow through it all. And so, and there's been a lot of hard times in the last 6 months or since August. I mean, no joke. As soon as you got word the book was going to be published, it was like a roller coaster since. And so, and that was in the beginning of August. So it's like, wow. But so we know that something good's going to come out of it, because there was been a lot of negative. Keep thinking of the wording. A lot of negativity has taken place to try to bring us down.
Yes.
And so,
like a lot of spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but friends and family have been so supportive. And so, and I'll admit, all I've read is the poems because I know the story, and so it's like.
Is it one of those things? I've had people tell me that they like know the gist of the story, they just don't want to fill in the blanks. Is that it for you too?
No, not really. I'm just not a big reader, as you well know. So,
just not gonna read it. That's cool.
No.
And you don't have to read the second book either, because you know that story too.
Yeah, I've been a part of all that that you're writing about. So, but I'm sort of like your aunt. Somebody told your aunt, you can't. I've got to read it because I can't really explain to people why they need to read it if I don't read it. So I'll get to it one of these days.
One of these days.
So, but as long as I can continue to support you, that's all that matters.
Yes, and he is like, that's been like the number one like biggest thing that's been like encouraging to me, is your overall support through this, and like how much you push me to like put myself out there more. That's been huge. Okay, sorry, we had reached our maximum video thing. So.
Yeah, if you sat through this, you know that it's a long one. So.
So yeah, but we wanted to come on here and like formally wrap it up instead of it just like stopping mid-sentence.
So, all right, say goodbye, Haley.
Goodbye, Haley. You want to say goodbye?
Oh, goodbye. We need to redo this. Cut.
Yeah, I can edit this clip.
I'm waiting on you to start over.
Oh, well, I need to start. Like, I want you to say something.
Oh. Well, if there's nothing else, then I guess it just left me.
It's just goodbye.
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 What are we? Nixon?